Things we have Cohort 1 in the house. Give a quick round of applause to those who. A few things I think that are just some housekeeping and some exciting times as we launch into this incredible cohort, this incredible time of fellowship, of learning, of becoming greater community, and actually impacting our communities in ways that we haven't done before, adding to our expertise to bless the communities that we're here to serve. So it's a huge thing. I first want to give a shout out. I'll be introducing him, so I'm going to mention his name now, and then I'll come back to the introduction. The founder of the Crime Lab, Jens Ludwig. Would you just give a round of applause? He'll be momentarily. It was his vision. 2008, a University of Chicago student got shot. And many academics would talk about it, and many people would think about it, but he did something. Said, we need to change. We need to impact the public sector. We need to have a difference because the criminal justice system is not being so just. And the process is not helping everyone the way it should. And he came together with two colleagues, and founded the Crime Lab. And because of that, we're here. And then moving directly into that, Rosanna Ander, Executive Director, has led us for years since 2008 to 2024 to be in this space. But I would be remiss not to give honor and just respect to a man who saw a need and made a difference and spoke up and said, we need to make a difference. We're doing things with policing, and policing, we need to add value to policing to make it better. But there is no true public health, public safety space that's good without a CVI component. And that is none other than the founder of the Crime Lab, CVILA, Dr. Chico Tillman. Would you give him a round of applause?
Oh, I didn't know what.
That's all right. We're moving wonderfully. No. We're in a meeting trying to make an impact. The lab's work is to make an impact, to take what you do, what works in what you do, to put it in a place where we can actually prove it out. That is it repeatable? Is it solid? Is it expandable? Will it scale? And if it does, this can be an impact to everyone. So our work is to move things forward in our communities to make a difference. This began 2008, and this is a big thing because it doesn't happen often, where you have an academic, an economist who's doing the work, take a huge leap, a huge risk, and start an organization, start a department in a school to actually impact our world. So with no further ado, and with joy, with a round of applause, let us celebrate Jens Ludwig.
Good morning. Good morning. Everybody can hear me okay? Yes. Great. Let me start off apologizing for the cold. I wish I could say it's not normally like this in Chicago. That's not true, unfortunately. I will be brief. I just wanted to welcome all of you here as the newest members of the University of Chicago community. As Mark mentioned, we started the Crime Lab 16 years ago now to try and be helpful on a terrible and unfortunately uniquely American problem of gun violence. We've thought about this as a public health problem from the very beginning, and very consistent and core to the public health approach is the idea that we can't make progress without taking data very seriously. And I think that's really a key part of how we think about community violence intervention as a field and the Community Violence Intervention Leadership Academy. The importance of data extends extends to both of the two frontline responder institutions that, for better or for worse, have really been carrying the water in dealing with gun violence in the United States. That's law enforcement, as we all know, gets something like $100 billion with a B dollars a year in the United States, and the much less appreciated but equally important community violence intervention sector. And this is our attempt to try and be helpful and support this very new but incredibly important institution that's developing in Chicago and cities all across the country. So I feel very lucky to have been part of this launch in 2021 of the Community Violence Intervention Leadership Academy to try and strengthen this incredibly important institution and use the resources of the University of Chicago, one of the world's great research universities, to try and be helpful in supporting the work that all of you do every day. I'm very grateful to the world-class team that we've been able to put together here at the University of Chicago. First and foremost, Dr. Chico Tillman, Marcus, Mark, Kim, Giovanni, the rest of the team that you will get to know like family over the next several months. I feel very lucky myself personally to have a chance to spend more time with you this Wednesday. I'm going to be teaching this lot myself. I'm looking forward to that in large part because I know I'm going to learn a lot from hearing about the work that all of you do as well. Until then, I will just close by thanking you all for everything that you're doing in your home cities every day to try and make America a safer and fairer place. And once again, just welcome you to the University of Chicago. Thank you.
Crime Lab starts in 2008, moves under the leadership of Jens and Rosanna Ander. And then as an executive director, Rosanna Ander has led us wonderfully through a challenging terrain, especially through COVID and all the challenges that came with that. And now she has adjusted her position and moving to actually help the communities more by shifting her position. And it opened up an opportunity for us to have a new direction and new leadership. And we are blessed to have with us the new executive director of the Crime Lab, Katie Hill, the one, the only, the incredible, powerful, and gifted woman. I want to say this one thing before I bring her up. We are in a time of transition because there's so many needs in our society, and there's so many needs in the work. And she is standing strong with CVI work. And I'm very thankful to be connected to someone who believes in what we believe in. So with no further ado, Katie Hill.
I don't know if I need this. Good morning. Good morning. I regret to report there's actually a lot of Katie Hills out there. If you Google the name, you're going to get a lot of people before you get to me. But good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here to help kick off Cohort 3 of the CVI Leadership Academy. I'm Katie Hill. I am the Crime Lab's new executive director, a role I assumed in October. So I think we're in week 5. But I'm not new to this work. I do want to welcome you also to the University of Chicago. We're here at a famously rigorous institution. It also happens to be my alma mater. We're a couple blocks from the law school, which I graduated from mumble years ago. And I probably shouldn't tell you this, but the student organizations at the law school at the U of C used to sell t-shirts, like to fundraise, that said, U of C, where fun goes to die. and I don't think it's gonna be that bad. I think we're gonna have some fun. But you have an incredible cohort here. These people are gonna be your peers, your colleagues. These relationships are gonna persist and support you and sustain you long beyond the 5 months that you're here working together. But yes, the work ahead of you is gonna be rigorous. And it should be, because the task ahead of you is so critically important. Long before I was the Crime Lab's executive director, I was, like some of you, a mayor's office employee working on violence prevention. I see some of my former colleagues in the audience here today. I'm glad to be reconnected. And in that role, I was privileged to work with a lot of the CVI organizations in Chicago that were doing this work on the ground, working like crazy to take these promising practices and build them into a sustainable ecosystem. I saw firsthand the commitment and tenacity of organizations on the ground doing this important work and how transformative it can be. Now, more than a decade later, it's incredible to see where the field is, where we all are collectively, and I'm incredibly excited about the promise of the work ahead at the CVILA. It's not an exaggeration to say that this work was really part of what drew me back to the crime lab. Through the CVI Leadership Academy, we hope to equip you with the tools, the skills, and the relationships that will help you continue to grow in your practice. This work is critically important, and ensuring this field's long-term sustainability is going to require us all to be able to tell a compelling story, evidence-based, about why CVI is a necessary component of any public safety infrastructure. I love the excitement in the room today, and we at the Crime Lab are honored to welcome you to the University of Chicago and to our incredible team. I look forward to continuing to get to know you. I'm also going to be teaching this week. I'll see you again on Thursday. And I can't wait to hear about your journey and your capstone projects. Welcome, and thank you.
Many years ago, the gentleman became an outreach worker, did all of the work of outreach and all the work of CVI as it was at that time before it had that name. Moved through the YMCA and did amazing things for the community through it. Then took over Ready Chicago and moved Ready Chicago from a local organization work to a national work. And then left there and joined the University of Chicago Crime Lab. And in that process, founded the Community Violence Intervention Leadership Academy. With no further ado, let me announce and welcome Dr. Chico Tillman.
I guess this time I could come up for real, huh? I guess I'm super excited. It's impossible to come in this space and not feel a sense of gratitude. Just to be able to fellowship, to commune, congregate, whatever words you want to use, with some of the most brilliant people on this planet, some of the most courageous, daring people on this planet. Can't really say enough about Jens and Rosanna, and not so much, about the university, but the investment they made in allowing us to move this work forward. For about maybe 10, 15 years, we've been talking about we got to professionalize the work. And then we had trailblazers like my brother Vaughn and MFS and CP4P that started the movement and started really professionalizing the field on the ground. And me and my super friends from around the country, the steering committee, saw this outpour of funding because we actually advocated for it tirelessly for 5 or 6 months, going from city to city and beating on doors, and finally were heard and were able to get money from ARPA allocated to CVI. And our concern was the leaders. We understood that leaders who only relied on lived experience might not be able to handle this windfall of dollars coming down so swiftly and be able to do it in a way that really demonstrated the efficacy of the work, but also the impact that would be required or looked upon with that type of investment. And we said we got to do something for our people. And we began to talk and congregate about creating an academy. And we actually took 3 months with 2 professors and poured into them all our thoughts, all our ideas. And out of that, the CVILA Academy was birthed. And just a little tidbit, a little side note, even if you think about the term CVI, I remember when we were having meetings coming up with a term with the White House and the Department of Justice that would be palatable, but allow the funding to go to the right people. That's really how we came up with this term CVI, because we were afraid under the old term violence prevention, a lot of the money was going to Head Start. Not saying nothing is wrong with any program, but Head Start, after school program, night watches, and we wanted to make sure the people that was ostracized and often looked over didn't fall into that trap again. So we came up with a term called CVI, and we defined it in a way that was narrow enough to ensure that the money went to the right people. Along with the steering committee, the advisory board, and our philanthropic partners and individuals who give so liberally to allow us to do this, I just want to say thank you. Being in this space is interesting. It's both rewarding and it's interesting because it forces you to learn. And this is what I want you to know. Like, you embarking on something, this journey, and you're going to learn. The reason why you're going to learn is because we bring in the best experts in business science, management science in the country, who have cultural sensitivity, cultural competency, and subject matter experts in this field to pour into you. So even every time I sit into the classes, I learn something. And I was thinking last night, and I was grappling with, how do I welcome Cohort 3? And I began to think about something that we all can relate to, and that's Marvel Comics. I'm going somewhere, and I'm gonna sit down. When you think about Marvel Comics, the first thing that comes to your mind is the X-Men, because they were the foundation of Marvel Comics, or they are the first group of superheroes who actually laid the foundations because they were mutants. I look at you as mutants. Mutants are people who are human but have superhuman ability. It's something in them that makes them different from everybody else. And this guy, Professor X, created an institute specifically for who? Mutants. For these special people, because he knew these people would go out and save potentially the entire world. So I invite you to come into this space to hone, develop, cultivate your superpower so you can continue saving lives. But now when you leave this program, you should be able to do it at an exponential rate. We want to refine what you're doing and help you take it to another level. Now you heard the beautiful video for Cohort 2. Now it's time for Cohort 3 to do their thing. So let's go. Welcome to the University of Chicago.
I guess that would make him Professor Xavier. That's all. We're going to switch now. The Dean, Marcus McAllister, has been a major part of this process from its beginning, from its inception to today. And so he will be emceeing the rest of the program. With no further ado, Marcus McAllister.
Yo, what up? Cohort 3. You know, when he's talking about the number 3, for me, many don't know I'm a pastor as well. So 3 represents divine wholeness for those that are in the Christian faith, and obviously it represents the Trinity. So I'm excited about what's going to come out of this particular group. I'm a person that believes in numbers, and numbers represent a lot of good things. I have the pleasure of bringing up a lady who is a colleague, a friend, and a big supporter of CVILA, and it's none other than Delreese Adams. Delreese Adams is a justice warrior with over 25 years of directing social service and public health reform efforts. On January 4th, 2020, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker appointed Del Reese to lead the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, respectfully known as ICEJA, here in the state of Illinois. And without further ado, to keep this program rolling, I would like to bring up Ms. Del Reese Adams.
Thank you, Mark. I have notes because I do have a job and I have things I have to say. But for the most part, I won't be saying them. I want to thank the University of Chicago for having me. I definitely want to thank Dr. Chico Tillman for his vision and all the work that the staff, Kim and Rosanna Ander, and all that they have done to further this work. Many of you sitting here have been in the trenches for a long time. It kind of ruffles the hair on my skin when people say this is new, because some of you have been at this for 15, 20 years and they keep reshaping it and reframing it and giving it a new name and a nice fancy title, and now they're professionalizing it. And all that is good and dandy, but guess what? The hearts that you bring to the work, we have to continue that. We are in an environment now where we may not have the same support that we've experienced under the American Rescue Plan Act. We're under a new administration, and the exciting part about that is that whenever we meaning Black and brown people, face adversity, guess what we do? We come out on top, right? Because we can't depend on anybody else. So we've had some great investments. I am a government employee, so I know the investments. ICEJA has been a funder in this. I'm gonna talk a little bit about our partnership. Some of my partners are there who are a part of the Government Alliance of Safe Communities. We've given over $250 million in 2024. I think we gave over $300 million in 2025. And we're on task to keep that sustained for 2026. And that is between government, the business sector, as well as philanthropy and other donors that are contributing to the CVI work. Because here in Illinois, we're a little bit unique in that we believe in this as an investment. We believe in this as an evidence-based strategy. And we know that this has one of the best outcomes of any violence prevention, community violence initiative that we have seen. And so we all have to put our arms together and keep this work moving and going along. One of the things that I want to share with you is we talk a lot about public health, violence being a public health and a public safety issue. And the reason it's important that we continue to talk about it from a public health perspective is because then we know there's a cure. And the cure is in you as leaders. The cure is in really wrapping our arms around those highest risk individuals and giving them other opportunities. Because as a public health issue, we learned this with COVID. When we look at root causes, we know that violence stems from systemic racism and ultra poverty, right? Most crimes are crimes of poverty, and most violence is relationship violence, right? And if we can dig into our communities and really give everyone the opportunities, the equity that we don't often get with the systems that are in place, then we could eradicate this thing called violence. I was having a conversation with my 14-year-old yesterday. He's kind of funny. He knows all the comic people. He wouldn't know exactly what Chico was talking about. I didn't know what he was talking about. But he had a health class and found out that diabetes is not a disease, it's a condition. And he said, Mom, it is really angering me that grandma could be better if she would just eat right. Why isn't she doing that? And he keeps saying that to me. Every time I think about it, I just get so upset because I want her around. And that's how we have to look at violence. Violence is preventable if we just have the right strategies in place, opportunities in place, and the people who don't have hope and who don't feel like they have a place in this capitalist society, that we give them that hope, we give them that opportunity, we give them another mechanism to outlet. Because most of these kids are extremely smart, they're talented, they're gifted, and no one's tapped that gift. So I challenge you all today. I had the second cohort stand up, but because you're the third cohort and a part of the Trey Club, I'm a Trey Club person, if you're in a sorority, you know what that means. I want you all to stand up. because today we acknowledge you. And I'm not gonna have you do a corny pledge, but what I'm gonna have you do is look around at each other. And the reason I'm gonna have you do that is because this work is not easy. It is heavy. It is hard. We need to depend and lean on each other. So I have a group, and you can be seated now, within the Government Alliance for the state of Illinois, and if I can have a couple, I saw Avik Das, he's with the county. He's with Cook County, and then we have some other partners here with our philanthropy. We have Esther Franco-Payne, Esther, if you could wave, who's with the philanthropy partners. I always get it mixed up, PSPC, is that right, Esther? And then we have Vaughn, who's here from Metropolitan. And we're like a family, mentioning Chico, all of us in the state of Illinois, we gather, we have conversations, we talk offline about this work, we cry to each other. I see you can back there, because it's hard and we need each other and you guys need each other. Trauma is real. Everybody in this room who has not experienced trauma, keep your hand down. I was gonna say, I'm in a wrong room. I'm looking around like, we have all experienced trauma, we carry it, and that is what drives us to do the work, but it's also something that we have to acknowledge and we have to lean on each other. So we are here not to be down, but to celebrate you all. This is gonna be an exciting adventure for you. I'm a funder, there are other funders in the room. I want to make a commitment to introduce you to the counterpart that is me across the country. I'm on the National Criminal Justice Association, so every state has a me. My organization or state agency, we distribute about $600 million a year in violence prevention, victim services, and other grants that are adjacent to violence prevention and criminal justice system, and there's a me in every state. And so I want to make sure that you all are connected, that you know your state partners, and that you get to know them so that once you're done, you can continue this work, you can get funded for this work, because that's the hard part, right? We know the work, we touch the people, but being sustainable within our funding can oftentimes get to us. So we want to make sure that you are fully resourced and have everything that you need to continue this great work and get the outcomes that we know we can get and create safe and thriving communities all across America. So thank you so much, and I look forward to the amazing work that is to come with the Trade Club Cohort.
So we just coming off of Thanksgiving, right? And I was telling my church, for me, Thanksgiving, it's not so much about any of the other stuff, the turkeys, all that stuff, or whatever you want to call it. It's about the word Thanksgiving, about being thankful. So the next person I want to bring up here is somebody that I'm very thankful for. I'm very thankful to have a relationship with this young man. The steering committee that we formed when we were doing Black and Brown Peace Consortium, and we had the steering committee for this launch of CVILA, we would always, and I see Ms. Arisa, who's part of our steering committee, she would always call Mr. Greg Jackson the baby of the group. I think he was the youngest out of all of us on our steering committee in the Black and Brown Peace Consortium, but maybe the youngest in that aspect, but large when it comes to what he had ability and what he was going to go on to do. I remember the first time I heard Greg speak, and I would say, man, this brother can speak, and he just, some people just grab you with their words, and Greg is one of those individuals. And I would always say, man, you're going to be a mayor, a governor, or something. And I would just say that, not knowing I was prophesizing to him back then. And he wound up becoming the deputy director of the very first White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention and special assistance to the president. So, Greg, I was prophesizing back then. We didn't know what it was going to be. Prior to that, Greg ran Community Justice Action Fund out of DC, their national group now with new leadership. But Greg ran that prior to going over to the White House. And also he oversees efforts to implement federal law, identify new executive actions, expand partnerships, improve services for those traumatized by gun violence. And I'll let him tell his own story. He's also somebody that's beating me in fantasy football right now. So, I'm gonna have to deal with that right there. But none other than my brother, my bro, Gregory Jackson.
He is right. I'm beating him in fantasy. The score is 132 to 125. After a great 206-yard game by Jaden Daniels, we have taken the lead. How y'all doing? All right. Good? All right, well, while we're doing the little mic thing, we're going to ask you to stand up one more time. We're going to do one more cool thing. Everybody. Okay. If you can, look across the room and find a face you don't know and go meet that face. There you go.
Well done already.
Yeah, gotta get them going.
Wait about some time, too.
Yeah, give me some time. All right. I know. What do you think?
And I think the biggest ask, I don't know if it's appropriate, but the biggest ask right now is like, let's get ready to get home. What's next, right? So like maybe if you touch back just a tidbit, right?
Nice to meet you, brother. Hear about all the good, great work you're doing. My name is L.D. Thomas. I got this dirt from all my friends. Heard about this story. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Still going. All right, 1 more minute.
What's good, brother? I'm good, man. I would love to connect with you, man. I'm in Cohort in Washington, D.C. Yeah, so we just built a podcast studio over there, so I've got teams with a podcast. Would love to possibly get you on.
I'd love to do that.
All right.
You're not living in a costume.
Oh, that's where we're at.
Sure. Well, y'all know East Coast.
No, we're in Anacostia.
Oh.
We're on support the state coast.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on W Street.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime, man. Just put me on the calendar. All right. That was good. All right. Raise your hand if you learned something new about somebody. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Arisa, what you learn?
That this young lady right here is from Dallas.
Dallas. All right. Anybody else? Raise your hand.
I learned the young man that I was speaking to is from Chicago as well.
There you go. Shot down. Awesome. Well, thank y'all. I mean, look, that's your first lesson about CVILA is that as much as this is about the information, the slideshows, the PowerPoints, the most powerful thing that you'll ever have is your connections in this room and beyond. And I'm just blessed to be a part of this legacy in my own unique way. As Marcus tried to embarrass me, I was part of the original steering committee as we developed Community Violence Intervention Leadership Academy. And honestly, this was built because we saw not just dollars, but we saw a surge in these types of programs and efforts across the country. And we knew that with new offices of violence prevention, with new mayors leaning in, with new cities investing, we needed more leaders. And we knew that, hey, we're not going to find them from an institution, no offense, University of Chicago. They're not coming out of classrooms, they're coming out of our communities. And we have to equip them with as much as possible to be successful. So I want to thank you all just for stepping up and being those leaders. I know you're already leaders back home, but this step is really, really huge for us to expand what is really an exploding field because of all the great impacts. As they said earlier, I'm Greg Jackson. I come from a small place called Fluvanna County, Virginia. Raise your hand if you heard of that. Not a soul. Whoa! All right, where you from? Oh, you from Portsmouth? Oh, yeah. See, that's right. Yep. I got a couple cousins running around there. You probably had to intervene and few of them. yeah, they in there. Yep, the Carringtons. Yep, yep, they all the 7'5". But moved to DC shortly after growing up in Virginia. And frankly, you know, I talk a lot about when I was shot. Unfortunately, in April of 2013, I was caught in the middle of basically an argument outside of a party let out, and the bullet that hit me hit 2 arteries. and nearly cost me my life. But what people don't know is I'd almost been shot 4 other times before that in Virginia. And gun violence is something that is like a cloud around black men and just black youth as a whole. And for me, you know, it was always kind of a part of life, but I didn't know how bad it could be until I was in the hospital and my doctor said there was a chance I wouldn't make it, and going through that full recovery. But what was also harder than that was watching my cousin, one of my cousins who was in the ambulance with me when I was shot, lose his best friend, Trey, and seeing how the cycle continues to go on. And so that's what really lit a fire in me, was surviving that moment of violence and trauma. But also, I'll never forget sitting in my hospital bed and turned on a TV for CNN. And I was shot just 2 days after the Senate failed to pass the universal background checks bill. So everyone was talking about gun violence right after Sandy Hook, and tender youth were lost. And I watched nothing but excuses. This is not the time. We can't do this. We don't have the support. We don't know if this is going to work. And while I'm literally in the hospital room recovering, watching that there wasn't the leaders we needed in Washington to do anything about this issue. And so I became an activist really that day, and I met so many amazing leaders like Arisa, Dr. Tillman. My first event was with Dr. Tillman. We didn't know there was no term for CVI. It was just street outreach, hospitals, but literally since day one, been with these amazing leaders. And we decided to push and change things. And I think Chico and Marcus were being light about this, but we literally pushed the White House to start to invest in this. Prior to 2021, there was $0 federal dollars for community violence intervention. Zero, right? Zero. But again, we looked at the billions of dollars that were going to law enforcement. Think about the billions of dollars that go into fire departments. You know how many people we lost to fires last year in America? 63. But how many of you know a fire station near your community? Maybe more than one, right? But think about the millions and millions and billions of dollars we put into protecting lives and property, but not the dollars we need to protect our youth and our community. So we fought for that change. The first executive action on April 8th of 2021 changed 26 grants to include CVI. It's about $10 billion. We fought for the American Rescue Plan. That was not in the original plan to give those dollars to community violence intervention. That was something we forced them to do. And we got a guidance from them, from the White House Department of Education and the Department of Treasury, to say, hey, these dollars can be used this way. And we didn't just wait for the little paperwork to do its thing. I'll never forget, Dr. Chico and Marcus went city to city and pulled those papers out in front of the mayors and said, I got receipts, like, you need to use this money this way. And that on the ground work wound up with $2 billion in the community violence intervention. And so I knew the assignment when I got into the White House. They always said, like, I had like a little accountant hat on at all times, because I was looking at every single budget item and figuring out how do we get more resources to our communities. And as you start to see budgets of trillions of dollars, you start to realize there's a lot of resources we could have. And so we fought hard. In 2022, we passed the first law on gun violence in 29 years, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. That included $15 billion. About $400 million of that went directly to CVI and the DOJ CVI grant. Again, we changed 26 funding programs. And then since we were talking about football recently, on September 26th, we threw that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary, where we changed the policy nationwide that Medicaid can be used for CVI in every state now. So that's huge. And if that don't sound huge to you, that's $205.4 billion in Medicaid, right? So if you're working with someone who is enrolled or should be enrolled, now those are resources you can utilize. But all of that work started with activists like you, leaders like you, survivors like you, community members and concerned citizens like you. We fought for that. And in total, there's around $240 billion of federal money that's on the table for CVI organizations. So we went from 0 to 240 because of brave leaders like the ones in this room. So I want to just say that, not to like brag or anything, but to really put a fire under you, that who knows how far you can go and how much change you can accomplish. Whether it's running your program, scaling it nationally, impacting federal policy, state policy. And I can't wait for more of y'all to run for office yourselves. But I think that the future of community safety undoubtedly lives in your hands. And I'll tell you one last story. We had there's a lot of politics in the White House. And they wanted to do a public safety convening. This is being recorded, so I can't say everything. But the president said, I want police chiefs here. I want all the police chiefs in the room to tell me why violence is down. Because in 2023, we saw an 11.6% reduction. And he pulled all the chiefs in, and he said, and I was the only, there was 2 of us that weren't chiefs at the table. And the president went to every chief, why is violence down? And why is violence down? Why is violence down? And I'll tell you what, every single one of those chiefs gave the credit to community violence intervention programs. Every single one of them. And so I was blown away. And this is, unprompted, right? And I remember the president sat back and he looked at us and he said, how do we do more of that? And I was like, I'm glad you asked, right? And that was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And so I'm gonna leave you with this. You're gonna learn a lot here. You're gonna be challenged with a lot. You're gonna be pulled away from your work. You're gonna be thrown into tough situations and scenarios. But realize that the entire government, the entire country is counting on you. But we need you all to do a little bit more. And so I wanna ask you to do one more exercise with me. Raise your hands as high as you can. Some of you already done this, so y'all gonna cheat. Okay, raise them a little bit more. And see, that's proof that you can always do more. That's real life, all right? So anyway, thank you all for having me. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to be a part of this effort. I'm a little worn out. It's been a long month, dog. So I appreciate y'all. And thank you so much, Dr. Chico.
Yeah, just when I was bragging about Greg, Hot Rod, he don't know he in Chicago talking about a Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. We don't want to hear about that in Chicago now. That's something we do not want to hear about. So Greg, GF, we got to talk to him afterwards. All my Chicago people, get with Greg afterwards. Indeed. I enjoy the fact that Greg had us get up and go meet somebody you don't know. And when they were doing that, it reminded me why I have the blessed opportunity to be the dean of the CVILA Academy, because I know about 80% of this room. It's a humbling experience when you know so many people. From every cohort we've had, I've known probably 75% of the cohort and maybe even spent time with them in the respective cities. So I give God the glory for that. The next lady I would like to bring up, Ms. Manon A. Butler, is Head of Programs and Partnerships for the National Basketball Social Justice Coalition, the policy and advocacy arm of the NBA community formed jointly by the NBA, the National Basketball Players Association, and the National Basketball Coaches Association in 2020 to address racial inequality, and advance social justice. She leads the development and implementation of the coalition's policy agenda, partnership, and stakeholder engagement strategies in day-to-day operations. Ms. Manon, please take the stand.
So you know how we fare when you have to go after Greg Jackson. That's what we're doing. Those are the friendships that I have. I am so humbled and honored to be here today with you. Dr. Chico Tillman, we appreciate you. Really want to give you another round of applause. And congratulations to Cohort 3. You are embarking on a journey. It's a continuation of your journey. I don't take it for granted that I have the opportunity. You said Trinity. 3 means something special. You have been appointed for such a time as this. That's right. Right? And so it's an opportunity, quite frankly, to lean in, stretch out, and really tap communities in a way that we need right now. I am really honored to be a member of the National Basketball Social Justice Coalition, which is the policy advocacy arm of the NBA, established in 2020 in the wake of all things justice, both racial justice, health justice, lots of things that were happening in 2020. And so as a result of our players, our league, the coaches coming together, the coalition was established. We are 501c4. We focus on using the platform to advance social justice. All of us have a role to play. I'm a native Washingtonian. Just met a brother from Washington who's doing some incredible work with Horton's kids. That's what I learned. And I'm clear that the role that sports has is something special. The role that sports can play is something really special. How many here, we're going to, in the spirit of keeping us active, raise your hand if you had an affinity for any sports, Okay, pretty unanimous. All right, we'll keep it going. What about basketball? Raise your hand. All right, I see some basketball fans in here. Okay, 2 hands. That's good stuff, good stuff. What we do is literally, we're in the business of taking the brilliance that's on the court and all of the attention that goes with those who are doing incredible work all day, every day to show up and show out on the court, and using that platform to shine a light on the issues off the court. And so what does that mean? What does that look like? We literally focus on policies at the federal, state, and local levels. Our issue areas are criminal justice reform, voting rights, policing, and community safety. That's what brings us together. That's what brings me into the fold with this brain trust, this incredible group of leaders, is the focus on community safety. Prior to joining the coalition, I led an agency in Washington, D.C. I led a criminal justice coordinating council, and there are CJCCs across the country. I just heard about NCJA, so work really closely with the National Criminal Justice Association. And so I know the state administering agencies that have the money are ripe to provide resources. So if you don't know your state administering agency or not connected, that is a resource. But having led this agency for almost 12 years, being a part of the criminal justice landscape in DC for 16 or so years, practicing law before that, I'm giving you the roadmap. The long and short of leading and working in prisons for a few years, I've actually really been blessed and fortunate to have traveled the road that I've traveled. So to be able to know firsthand what it means to hear those bars clanking in jails and understanding I could get out, but I'm working with men who would not be leaving anytime soon. Working in communities that have been under-resourced and underserved. So I actually benefited early on in my career working with an organization where we had Department of Justice funds. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Weed and Seed funds. I'm dating myself a little bit. Weed and Seed funding, working with organizations, most vulnerable organizations. I met a brother from San Antonio. We had a site in San Antonio, Salinas, California, 26 sites across the country, some of our most vulnerable communities. And what was powerful was, what we're seeing today. When you invest and you partner in real ways with the solution-oriented problem solvers on the ground, change happens. Right. Change happens. And so for me, this is not only professional. I don't stand before you solely as a member of our coalition. I'm proud to serve as a member of the coalition. I stand as a daughter. I stand as a community member. I stand as a friend. I stand as one who understands what it's like growing up in D.C. when the era was known for being the murder capital. Right? I stand as that person as well. So bringing our experiences to the work, being able to experience what it means to sit at tables where your voice is not the common voice, but to be able to help to shape experiences. And again, you're appointed for such a time as this. So what you will be learning and leaning into and sharing with one another is sharpening you for the moments that you're going to be embarking upon in the year to come. Your voice is needed. We are going to be managing through change over the next year. And so what this does, what this Leadership Academy provides you the opportunity to do is sharpen skills, the skills that you already have. Expand your tribe, because our tribes matter. We need to know that those calls that you need to make when you're like, oh, this is not working, that you have someone on the other side of the call, of the line, of the text, who can not only commiserate with you, who can also support you, and who also may be able to have some guidance or solutions for you. right? We also need to be able to have folks on the other side of the text or the call or the email who can celebrate with you. Let's be clear, we cannot avoid and we should never lose the opportunity to celebrate our successes. They may be small in others' eyes, but you know better than anybody else what it takes to do what you're doing. And celebration can be contagious. When folks see wins, again, I'm in the business of sports and entertainment. When folks see wins, that's contagious. I'm a Washington fan, Commanders fan. I'm with you on that Jaden Daniels pass. So excited you said that. And we've been struggling for a long time as a Washington football team. And now the winning is happening, and there's something contagious about it. But folks have been along for the ride for a long time celebrating this team. I also have some basketball teams, mini basketball teams. Some have been super successful, some have not been so successful. I will talk about my college team, my Georgetown Hoyas. Okay, legacy of strong play, struggle, and now they are coming back again. I'm using sports as an analogy, right? We have roles to play, and just like the ups and downs with the team, folks come back. Because we have diehard folks who are literally, how many of you have a team, and be honest with me, you rocking with your team and you continue to rock with your team, notwithstanding the fact that they're not cutting it. Let me show of hands. How many folks are still, which teams are you representing? The Bears, okay. The Eagles. Spurs, Cowboys. Oh, the Cowboys. I'm a Washington fan. That actually warms my heart. Others, the Saints. Yes. Understand the power, though, in our connections. Can you describe what your connection is with the team? Why are you still rocking with the Saints? Why are you still rocking with it? That's home. Why are you still rocking with the Cowboys?
Why?
Huh? How you bonded with your dad. What about, someone said San Antonio Spurs? Yes.
You got the best player in the league now.
You got the best player in the league now. You can call that out and it's easy, right? Why do we stick and stay with our communities? And it's challenging and it's hard. What is it that keeps us bonded and bound to our communities? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Commitment, assignment, something greater than yourself.
Yes. Others? Relationships. The answers are already here. Your why, you already have it. That you're here because of your why. We need to be able to continue to celebrate, ensure that you are being fueled. Had this conversation with Dr. Tillman yesterday. I am about the work. And our work as a coalition, it is clear that we have a platform. When I say NBA, folks look different. Folks listen. Folks lean in differently. Standing and sitting and I understand that. And that's the power of the platform. So our role is, I don't need to be the subject matter expert. You are the subject matter experts. I need to understand that our platform is powerful. And in markets where you have the benefit of teams or players or coaches or executives and what you're doing, there's something there. There's something powerful that can happen. I'll give you an example. Worked in Minnesota. Anybody from Minnesota here? Worked in Minnesota. Oh, okay, all right. I gotta keep what's behind that chuckle. Okay. With our Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns, who's then with the Timberwolves and now with the Knicks. And there was an issue around restoring the right to vote for men and women who were under supervision, restoring the right to vote. After conversations and working with the team on the ground, because that's a part of our principle. We're not bigfooting in communities, right? It literally is about understanding who are the subject matter experts on the ground. Part of my work is to connect with leaders like you. Part of my work is to understand what's happening on the ground and how we may be able to join forces and be supportive. Part of my work is trying to figure out how we can use the platform to elevate work that's happening so that we can focus on policies being pushed and moved. So that goes back to Minnesota. Had the conversation with Kat and with the Timberwolves, and literally Kat can tweet something and millions of eyes are on it. I know my existence in government, working at this stuff for decades, and you don't get the same eyes. So understanding, I'm not talking about why should it be that way. It is that way. So how do we connect the resources and those in our orbit, in the NBA's orbit, who care? So I'm not just saying all players, because all players aren't similarly situated. All teams aren't similarly situated. But how can we connect the dots in a way that really makes sense? In this instance, it made sense. Kat said, let's do, I want to be able to support. I want to use my platform for this policy. The team, I want to use the platform. The coalition, connected with, sent letters of support to state leaders, the governor, and the legislative leaders. We didn't make it happen. We were able to help get it across the finish line. So this measure, the Restore the Vote measure that passed a year and a half ago, led to 55,000 Minnesotans being able to get the right to vote, right? That's the basic thing. However, you don't stop there, and this is a credit to the team and to all involved, Kat and all involved. We're talking about elections. Now the focus is how do you implement it? Because far too often we have policies that we push to get passed and we celebrate it, and rightfully so, but then they're not implemented, or they're not implemented with fidelity. And we're none the wiser because we're on to the next policy. We're on to the next bill that we're trying to push. But we have bills that are on the books that if we were able to focus our attention and get disciplined, what could happen? So the power is then Minnesota said, we're going to fold this into our strategy. So when we're focusing on elections, this Pack the Vote will include a focus on the population of 55,000 Minnesotans, many of whom may not know that they now are able to vote or may not just be tuned in. How do we use our platform? I share that because we all have a role to play. I'm very clear about that. I'm also clear that, and as it was said in the piece, iron sharpens iron. So I'm able to come to the table with a set of resources, and a lot of it is the narrative and it's the attention. We don't give grants. I want to tell that to everybody. We, the coalition, does not offer grants. We have a foundation that was established to do that. Happy to make connections if in fact that makes sense for your respective organizations. But at the end of the day, the power that's in this room, the power that's in this cohort, the power that is in the alumni group is actually to not be taken for granted. You're just getting started. I am super excited to see what's to come. But I also invite you to promise me that you're going to do one thing. While you are soaking it all in, you are establishing this or reinforcing, expanding your network, you are not going to lose sight of what it means to take care of yourself. This notion of putting the oxygen mask on yourself as you are doing the work, I'm very hopeful that that is something that's a part of the tools that you are actually going to really lean into over the next 5 months. I was having this conversation with Dr. Tillman. I can't say Dr. Chico. Dr. Tillman. Put some respect on that name, Dr. Tillman. If today is the last day that you are drawing breath, I'm hopeful that you served the purpose that you were put on this earth to serve, and you were also very clear about the purpose. And was it solely about administrative work that comes with it? Was it solely about navigating the bureaucracies that come with the territory? Was it solely about, quite frankly, the interactions that need to happen when you're in the business of saving lives? Or is it something else? your families, your personal tribes, your health, your wellness. I beseech you, brothers and sisters, to focus on that. At this time, because you are appointed, we will be navigating a new day in some respects. It may get challenging. You do have a tribe to rely on, but no one is any good if you're not good. So it's going to be important that you focus on your wellness and your self-care and understand that you have a tribe here. I applaud CVILA. I applaud this team. And I'm really incredibly thankful and happy to be a part of the welcome process. I look forward to the graduation because I know that what you're building is something incredibly special. Thank you.
All right. I liked how she used that word beseech you. And I'm gonna beseech you, Cohort 3, to network with one another. I said this at the last cohort. You're gonna hear me say that a lot because that's something we don't have a PowerPoint for. We don't have an instructor coming in and teach you about that. You have to want to network with one another because you have a lot inside of you that others need to learn from as well. Also, like anybody from Cohort 1 or Cohort 2, I saw a couple of people here. I just want to acknowledge you for coming out and supporting your colleague. Cohort 2 or Cohort 1, you raise your hands? All right, excellent. Thank you.
This is amazing. As we wrap up this morning and move into this next move, as the man of God would say, the next move of God, it's going to be incredible. I was asked to repeat a story we said earlier this morning for those who came really early. There was a guy who was going out to dinner and he told his friend, he said, I want you to meet this person. They're essential. They have a lot of connections where you're going, but they have sticky fingers. They steal. They have an issue with theft. So the person said, I don't mind. I just won't leave my wallet on the table. So they go out and eat. It's great. Have a wonderful thing. Make the connection. And then the person who invited went, and now the guy who has the guy with the sticky fingers, he's taking him home, but he's going past his house first. There's snow outside. He said, let me run in the house, use the restroom real quick, and then I'll go. But I can't leave him out here. So he said, come on up with me. Goes upstairs, uses the restroom very quickly, comes back down, gets into the car, drops him off, gets back to the house, and realized that his grandfather's watch that's always on the mantle is gone. It was there when he came. He saw it when he walks in. It's always the first thing. He is livid. So he calls the guy that he invited and said, hey, man, can you believe this guy? Man, all the stuff we're doing. And the man looked at him and said, well, wait a minute. Didn't you say he had that issue? He's not off. He's in integrity. You're the one that's off. It's not about morality. It's about integrity. Because morality is not the same for everybody, but integrity is doing what you say you're going to do and being who you say you're going to be. Our first leadership class, as we move into this class, is to understand everything we're doing is in integrity. Who we are is in integrity. We're on time because we said we'd be on time. We're listening because we said we would listen. We're coming in on breaks on time because we said we'd be coming on breaks on time. Is that right?
That's right.
And as I leave off with this 10-second close, I want to say that the most powerful thing you're going to learn is one word that's going to change everything for your organization. And the 10 seconds is up. All right, thank you so much. God bless you.
Hey, so we're gonna get ready. We're gonna take a picture with all the students up here. But Dr. Tillman knows I gotta do my video, and anybody that follow me on the ground know I do my video. We're at Cohort 3 kicking off CVILA. Give them some love right here, y'all. Give some love right here. We're in the building with Dr. Chico, Dr. Tillman over there. I gotta get over there to the funeral. All right, I'll get ready. Cohort 3, the Trinity.
The last thing is power. Would you say power? Power. Say it like you mean it.
Power.
You're going to graduate from this class and have more what?
Power.
Your community will have more what?
Power.
Look at the person to your left and tell them what you're about.
Power.
Look at the person to your right and tell them what you're about. Power. You will have power. It doesn't matter who's in office, you will have power. When you have enough power, they will come to you. And you can set the agenda for your community. Thank you.